Trafficking and racketeering trial for music mogul Sean Diddy Combs starts back up this morning, and we are expecting more key testimony today. The prosecution plans on calling Diddy's former assistant, Capricorn Clark, to the stand. Now, rapper Kid Cudi testified Clark can back up claims that Combs torched his Porsche, broke into his home, etc. Joining me now once again is trial attorney and legal analyst Misty Marris. Misty, it's always good to have you. Entering the third week here, I'm just wondering, does Capricorn taking the stand to talk about a torched car do anything to solidify the federal charges that Diddy faces?
Yeah, so what we anticipate from Capricorn Clark is that she's a longtime assistant and actually worked her way up to being an executive at Combs's companies. So her testimony, from what we learned outside of the jury's presence, so this is when the defense and prosecution argue about the scope of testimony, is that Capricorn Clark is going to be testifying about what's called the methods and means of the criminal enterprise that is the basis for the racketeering charge that Combs faces. That's RICO. Now, method and means, that's just a legal term for how it works, what they do. So we may learn more about the basis of that charge. Kid Cudi's testimony was really the first step the government has taken with respect to those racketeering charges, with that allegation of arson, which is what's called a predicate crime, basically the crimes that the enterprise is committing on Combs's behalf. So Capricorn Clark presumably is going to be an important witness to gel that together and put together that RICO charge of the case facing Combs.
Yeah, prosecution hoping she can fill in some of those gaps there. Who else do you expect the prosecution will call to the stand?
Well, so this week we know that the next witnesses are going to be an LA PD representative, an LA Fire Department representative. Now, those are going to be what's called foundational witnesses. They're likely to talk about the searches of Diddy's home, what was found. Remember, his home in LA and also his home in Florida were both raided. We already heard about the Homeland Security search of his home in Florida. So I expect those to be foundational witnesses. But when we're really going to get more into the meat of this case, and by the way, Marky, the witness list isn't being disclosed. Every witness isn't being identified in advance. We're kind of learning it as the trial goes on. But what I expect to see is others that were in Diddy's sphere. D-Rock, that's a security guard. Other assistants, other security, other personnel. Chef Jordan, we've heard her name. Now, these are all individuals who are going to testify about the criminal enterprise and also may have insight into these aspects of the federal sex trafficking charges, which requires a showing of force, fraud, and coercion. So are they covering up his crimes? What is their role? They're co-conspirators with deals with the government testifying against him. So all of that I expect to see in the coming weeks.
And then once the prosecution wraps its case, it'll be the defense's turn. How do you anticipate Sean Combs' attorneys present their case?
Well, we've really already seen where their case is going. The whole case is built upon consent with respect to sex trafficking. So there's three different types of charges that he's facing. One, sex trafficking. And what the defense has said is that we're going to hear from other victims. Those are other witnesses the prosecution will bring, which is charged conduct, another individual who's in a relationship with Combs, and then another victim who says that Combs had abused that individual as well. So we're going to hear from them. And what the defense is saying is that any sexual encounters were consensual. And so if there was violence in the relationship that has nothing to do with federal sex trafficking, it has to do with a domestic violence relationships that were fueled with jealousy. So that's one piece of it. As far as RICO, I think we've already seen the defense lay that foundation, that especially with the arson, Kid Cudi testified that he believed it was Combs who threw that Molotov cocktail in his car, but he didn't really know. It was speculative. He was making that assumption. He didn't have hard evidence to support it. Others in Combs' sphere who are going to presumably testify about committing crimes on his behalf or being part of a cover-up, they'll say they're individual bad actors and not part of this larger criminal conspiracy. So those are the avenues the defense has laid the seeds and laid the foundation. Will they call witnesses? We expect them to call an expert. That's what we'll see. And then will Combs testify? I'm going to say no. But you never know. It's always up to the defendant.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with you there. Just before I let you go, I was thinking about this yesterday, just on Memorial Day. How nervous do you think Diddy is after the first 2 weeks of trial? Because I was looking at his jailhouse Memorial Day activities list yesterday, Misty. His choices were dominoes, you got spades, you got board games, also 3-on-3 basketball, if you're up to it. How nervous do you think he is just after what we've all heard the first 2 weeks?
Well, I think there's been real ups and downs from the defense perspective in the trial. There's testimony that's really, really damaging. We heard from Cassie Ventura and about the abuse, and will the jury see that abuse as being that element of force, fraud, and coercion with respect to sex trafficking? And RICO as well, Kid Cudi's testimony regarding the arson, that's the first step in that direction. Both of those carry, Marky, significant criminal sentences. So I'm sure that nerves are absolutely, he's probably on edge just thinking about this could be his fate. He could be in jail for many, many decades to come. That being said, the defense got some headway with a lot of witnesses. They were able to really undercut some of the testimony, or at least sow those seeds of doubt on cross-examination. So we'll see where the cases go from here. We feel like we've been in this case forever, but it's an 8-week trial.
I know.
So there's a lot more to come.
There's a lot more to come. You and I have a lot more conversations to have, but talk about a far cry from the lavish lifestyle he's used to at the moment. Yes. We will wait and see what today brings. Misty Marris, always good to have you. Thanks.
Thank you.